How about those people who agreed to cooperate? Why? Because they couldn't. Uh, um, they couldn't go through tortures anymore. There was something else.
I am thinking how to explain this to make sense. They had different methods of pressure. It depended on the psychological type of the person. It was the FSB department. They knew what kind of methods they should use. Usually it would be Russian and Soviet ways to convince. They stick to it and might carry on using it. They use their physical strength. Yes, strength, just different types of it. I didn't see men or women who would agree to work for them. I know some cooperated, but similar to what I was doing. I was helping as a doctor. Some people avoid being in their cell because it was difficult without walks outside. We didn't have a chance for the fresh air or sun. That's why some people say, I can do this or that, and let me be useful. Because those conditions were harmful for people's mental health. People were close to the suicidal condition. They tried to save themselves and offering to do something not to lose their mind. People were ready to do any job to avoid being in the cell. I do not think they work for Russians. There were people who were paid for their work, and they have officially become the police of the Russian Federation. They become collaborators. These young guys were in the cell, but they spent there a week or so. They agreed straight away as soon as Russians offered them a job. They wore Russian uniform and were torturing their countrymen absolutely the same way as the Russian servicemen did. They were Ukrainians, though. I know and remember all of them.
Have you been interrogated? Did you leave the evidence about these traitors?
Yes, of course. I went through all necessary reports and face recognition on the photographs and videos. Ukrainian secret services regularly contact me because I have seen and know a lot. They call me as soon as they arrest collaborators. I know a lot.
Can you tell more about tortures? What kind of practices they were using?
Are you sure that you want to hear it?
I don't want it for myself because I won't be able to sleep. I want our viewers to hear it. The English-speaking audience, for their understanding, what the representatives of great Russian culture do to us. Do you realize that in the West, here in the UK particularly, to spread documentaries about poor Russian boys and spreading the narratives that they were forced, the victimizations of the villains happening. They say it's Putin's war. For the British and American people, they use the abstract storytelling that the war crimes conducted by somebody.
Why don't they tell about the pleasure they had doing it?
Tell me about it. Say it to be heard. We have to tell our tragic stories to destroy the myth about a great Russian culture. forever. It is not Putin's war. It is the war of 140 million people who enjoy it and making money on killing Ukrainians. We must tell the stories.
Let's start smoothly then. We, the servicemen, were taken to the interrogation, then gradually tell you about the civilians on things I have seen. I mean about those when I was present. When we were brought to Nova Kakhovka police station, we were beaten badly and taken to our cell. I was taken to the interrogation in an hour. My eyes were covered with sellotape, and in handcuffs, I was seated on the concrete chair. They started the interrogation, which became torture. If they did not hear what they wanted, as they were sure we were the intelligence, the Ukrainian sabotage group, first, they started using the knife to cut the skin near the knee area until the knife touched the bone. I repeated the same thing, as I knew they were not going to stop if I started changing my story. So it would be worse for me. They did not stop and started using the baseball bat. They use it on different parts of my body, even the cuts they made earlier. Also, they smashed on the back of my neck, and my information was the same. Then they used the rubber stick as the policemen have. Afterwards, they started using so-called tapping. It's an electrical tool to connect. They attached 2 wires to it and attach it to the body for torture. Or, if connect it with another tapping, it works as a phone. Russians used this machine on me, connecting with those wires to my ears. There's a handle on this machine, and the more you stir it, the more electricity it generates to electrocute my ears. It felt as if it was forever. Later, I was told by my cellmates it lasted about 10 minutes. You won't believe this, but they stopped only when I started screaming in Russian. Why are doing this to me if I was an army doctor since 2017?
з 17-го року є військовим лікарем, і в ті роки, 17-18, у мене була можливість, і у мене були поранені
And I was
також
helping the DPR
військовослужбовці
soldiers back then.
ДНР. Не
I was
тільки
saving
українські,
all,
а і
not only
військовослужбовці
Ukrainian
ДНР. І після
servicemen, but
цього мені
DPR fighters as well.
Це був перший допит, який закінчився. Мене під руки
They
завели
had
там.
stopped after this. It was my first interrogation.
Дякую тим людям, що там були. Вони мені допомогли, годували мене з ложки.
When it was over, they carried me to my cell. I was lucky because people in the cell took care of me. They fed me with a spoon. It was tough.
Держати ложку і повноцінно їсти. Якщо брати до уваги
I was struggling to stand on my feet, to hold the spoon and eat normally.
вся процедура та сама процедура.
The other two guys who were caught together with me, it was 3 of us. Russians did the same to them. The only difference was they attached those wires to the fingers or toes.
Для більшого проходження току.
And they were covered with a wet cloth, increasing the electricity voltage. I didn't realize Russians used the same methods to civilians. I could never imagine those methods could have been used for women as well. I was shocked.
Дуже сильно шокований.
All I could just to close my eyes because my every presence during torture and interrogation.
Відбувалося таким методом, що біля мене стояв військовий і тримав біля
Usually one of their soldiers held the gun near my head, and there was another person present who was tortured. All Russians were wearing balaclavas. We didn't see their faces. Only after their order I could get closer and do some medical manipulations to prevent the death of that person and make him or her conscious. I was shocked when they started undress women until they were naked. Then these wires were attached to the paper clips and those to the nipples. Some women had these wires to the private parts, front and back. Russians tortured them until they peed themselves or fainted, or they finally heard what they wanted to hear. It's not all their torture methods. The youngest guy I was helping, he was 19, and they tore off his nails on his toes.
I can't believe that human can do such things. I understand they do it. I just can't see it in this picture. Can't imagine it.
They enjoyed it. They laughed. They milk every moment. It was their pleasure.
Why? Is it impunity? Or that kind of creature? What's your take?
I think it's impunity. Also, I heard numerous times that young guys from FSB
сюди
were sent
направляють
here
для
to
того, щоб
practice
вони
the
набирали
torture and
навичок.
pulling out the information.
Навичок витягування інформації з людини.
Тобто це якісь
Seems like their labs practice.
це буквально якась лабораторна практика.
Yeah,
Have you seen the faces of those students?
Так,
yes,
звісно,
of
бачив.
course I
Ми
did. I have
ідентифікували
identified
їх.
them.
Я навіть знаю їхні
I know
імена.
some of the call
Це
signs.
все передавалося нашим спецслужбам
I
України.
gave all the information to
Ви
our
не
secret
повірите, але
service.
коли я побачив лице, я був шокований. З тих всіх, хто мене
You won't
готував,
believe
з
it,
всіх, хто
but when I saw their
готували
faces, I was
цих
shocked.
людей, жінок,
Among those Russians who tortured me,
саме
civilians and women, the
молодші
youngest, were 20, 21 years old.
21 рік.
Children.
Yeah,
Але вони всі
but they
завжди
always were
виходили
leaving the torture room
саме
smiling
додому
and in a
з
good mood.
завжди виходили, посміхаючись і з приємним настроєм. Я дуже
I saw it
багато
many
разів бачив
times.
цього.
А насилля?
Violence?
Насилля,
Did
вони
they use it
регулярно
regularly
застосовували? Чи
or
це
from
були
time to
поодинокі,
time? I mean sexual
я маю на
violence.
увазі сексуальне насилля?
Ви тільки
I
хотіли
was just going to ask you
перепитати
what you
вас, яке
mean.
саме насилля ви кажете. Ну, тут ми
In
трошки
this
відійдемо
aspect,
від
we will
того,
leave
що ви
FSB to the
FSB,
side,
тут ми
as
вже
it's more
будемо
regular
говорити
Russian
за
soldiers from different
російських
republics like Kalmykia,
військових, в
Buryatia,
більшості за військових республік, Калмикія, Бурятія і інших республік, які собі дозволяли з приводу
people
цього
from those
вимагати.
places allowed themselves a lot.
Ну, ви знаєте ту
You remember
історію
the story with that
з
teenager girl.
дівчинкою неповнолітньою.
Yes, I do, but I want you to talk it through for our audience.
Так сталося, що
I was lucky that I was not present when they violated this
для
girl.
мене на превелике щастя, що я не був присутній при сексуальному насиллі цієї дівчинки,
But I have
але
seen the
я бачив
consequences.
наслідки. Я бачив ці каплі
I
крові,
saw
коли
the
вона
running
виходила
blood from
з
her
камери, і
afterwards.
вона йшла, і просто з неї лилася кров. І я би не повірив,
I would never
якби
believe if I
я
was
не
not accompanied
поїхав
her to the
з нею
hospital.
в лікарню. Я це побачив, я побіг
As
відразу
soon as
до
I noticed
командира.
she was bleeding, I went to their commander of the Russian armed forces.
Командира загону, який знаходився якраз
He was the leader of the
в
team that was
позиції,
stationed in the
і
police
пояснив,
building.
що там є вагінальна кровотеча,
I explained that she had vaginal bleeding, and she needed to be seen by the gynecologist because I could not help her.
І мене взяли з собою.
They took me with them. So we went to the hospital. This girl, me, one collaborator, and a serviceman. I remember the shocked eyes of the gynecologist who examined that girl.
В Новій Каховці в лікарні приймав цю дівчинку. Я зрозумів,
It became
що
clear it was
це було
sexual
фізичне
violence.
насилля.
I tried to ask her, but she refused to talk about
Спробував
it.
в неї запитати, але вона відмовилась про це говорити взагалі.
I was appointed to conduct her treatment to stop bleeding upon return to the prison.
Лікувалися ми чуть більше неділі. За цю неділю
She was
я
prescribed
зрозумів, що
medicine.
дитина
The
взагалі
treatment lasted a bit more than a
дитина не
week.
хоче ні з ким спілкуватися.
During this time, I
Я
realized
розумів,
this
що це
child
перший
shut down
крок,
completely.
що вона може
She refused to
допомогти
talk to
самому.
anybody.
Ну,
Those
це
were the
було
first
таке,
red
що
flags she could end her
вона
life.
і замкнулася. Я розумів,
She was completely
від
closed.
чого
I
замкнулася,
understood why she did
зв'язку з
it.
чим. І я почав просити
I decided to
жінок,
ask women from her cell
знаходилися з
to
нею в
talk to
камері,
her and try to change her mood towards something positive.
якось її позитивно налаштували, щоб в неї
And there was no room for her negative thoughts.
і
She
конкретно
opened up
так,
to these
вона
women.
призналася, що її якби Вона не казала конкретно, що її
She didn't say
знасилували, вона
literally
просто
what
сказала,
they
що
had
її
done to her,
залишили
but she told them she was taken to the
туди, де
room
живуть
where
самі
all the
військові,
servicemen lived, and then got
а
silent.
далі просто замовчала. І вона
She could
далі
not
не
say
знала,
what
що
happened
було
next.
далі.
How old was the girl?
14. 14 years old.
Do you know what happened to her?
Yes, I
Знаю,
know.
що її,
Luckily, her parents found her.
на щастя, її знайшли батьки, написали дуже багато бумаг, дуже
They
багато
wrote so many
заяв, дуже багато
applications,
прохань
papers to the occupying
на
Russian authorities,
прийдешню
which was
російську
organized by
адміністрацію, яка
then.
вже там була
They let
якось
this child go to her
сформована,
parents.
незрозуміло як. І дитину відпустили на поруки батьків. І зараз вона
She is in Poland
знаходиться
right now.
в
They
Польщі
left Ukraine straight away.
з батьками, вони
She is
виїхали
afraid to
відразу
return to
з
Ukraine, even here, where
і
Ukrainian
вона
authorities
боїться повертатися в Україну. Навіть сюди, де не окупована сторона. Але ж,
Unfortunately,
розумієте,
it's not a
що,
rare
на жаль,
case.
це не поодинокий
Hope you
випадок.
understand it.
Були
There were other
дівчата,
girls.
які були
Russians kept them
повнолітні,
all the time on the
але
floor
їх
where their
тримали
servicemen
постійно
lived.
на тому
They
місці,
held
де
them in the
проживали
locked
військові.
rooms.
Тримали в закритих кімнатах, де самі військові і жили, ночували. До таких дівчат
It
я
is
теж
where
попадав.
soldiers lived and spent their nights.
Мене
I
просили
was
просто,
taken to
щоб
those
я
girls as well.
прийшов,
I had to look at her
подивився
and
на
tell
неї
if she was
і
pregnant.
дав визначення, чи вона вагітна. На що я казав, я не можу цього. Як я можу
I
вам
tried to
сказати, чи
explain
вона
that it was not possible.
Ну,
How can I
перший
tell
час
if
я
she was
ніколи.
pregnant?
Другу чергу,
First of all, I am
в
not a
таких умовах, навіть
gynecologist.
якщо я був
There was no
військовим,
conditions
в
for
таких
this
умовах,
examination. There was
при
not
тій
equipment.
апаратурі я міг би це
I
зробити, але
reminded
в
them that
першу
I was a
чергу я
family
дитину
doctor.
боявся. Я лікар-терапевт. В мене
It's
не та
not my
спеціалізація.
expertise.
Але вони
Somehow they were
чомусь вірили,
convinced
були
and
впевнені
wanted me
в
to
тому,
do
що
it.
я маю це
I
зробити.
heard when they asked for help,
І я був,
they asked me to convince
і
Russians
я чув,
to
як
let those
просили
girls
допомоги.
go.
І я чув, як просили, щоб я поговорив і щоб їх відпустили, але мені сказали,
I
що
got
ну,
refusal. They had
ніяк
no
не
chance to
відпустять.
be freed.
І ні при яких розкладах їх не відпустять. І та ротація, при яких вони були присутні, і потім
Those
вони
soldiers
змінилися
took
на
those
іншу
girls
ротацію,
with them after the
і вони
rotation.
їх забрали з собою.
I don't
Я
know
не
what
знаю,
happened
як.
afterwards.
Тобто ці
So
гвалтівники
these rapists
забрали
took
дівчат,
these girls
яких
whom they
вони
constantly raped.
постійно гвалтували.
Yeah.
Ну, а
Do
рідні
their
про це
families
знають?
know?
От
Do
українські
Ukrainian
спецслужби
secret
знають
services know about it?
про це?
Я
I
не
don't even know
знаю
the names of those
навіть, як
girls.
звати
I was
дівчат.
not even
Мені не
allowed to
дозволяли
talk
з
to
ними
them.
спілкуватися в принципі. Постійно в присутності був один-два військових.
There were always one
Дивилися,
or
що
two
я роблю,
soldiers.
які таблетки я даю. Я
They
казав
watched me and what I was
дівчатам,
doing,
я
what
казав
pills I
дівчатам,
gave them.
я
I told
казав
them there were
дівчатам, які
girls,
приблизно
their
склали
age. I
фоторобот,
suggested
але
making a photo robot.
ніхто цього не робив.
Nobody did it. If their
Не знаю,
identities
чи там були
unknown,
вільні
they were
значки,
not
їх не
there.
було. Але я
But I
відчув,
know
що
they were there,
і не
not
одного.
one.
How many?
I
Я
have seen
бачив
two.
двох. Це
Those
тиждень,
whom I
яким
went to
я
help.
надавав допомогу.
How the teenagers could have been in prison?
І
There were two
насправді
boys,
цьому
one
хлопцю
was
18,
16 and the other
ще
was
третій
17
було
years old.
18, але
There
його
was the third
відпустили
one, an
відразу.
18-year-old, but they released him straight away.
Потрапили.
How did they get there?
Їм
They were
інкримінували,
charged with work for Ukraine's armed forces and sending information about the positions of Russian ammunition.
їм казали, що
Russians told them they were walking around the town, looking and then passing the information on Russian checkpoints and ammunition location there.
і за
That's why they were arrested and kept in prison. I don't understand why so long to keep them.
How long?
More than 2 months. I saw them in the middle of May. On the 19th of August, I was moved to Sevastopol prison. Boys were still there. The girl was released on the 13th or 12th of August.
Your parents took her.
Yeah. By the way, I told the commander about the result of the gynecologist examination of the girl. And there were serious damages and teared off organs as a result of the violation. He told me he was going to find the responsible. In 4 days' time, when they called me to help somebody, I met the commander again. He pulled me aside and said he found them. He punished them. It was his words to me.
How?
Nobody knows. I could not ask him how he punished them. What would this change for the girl? The damage was done.
So, at some point, because you agreed to help those who were in other prison cells and you were assisting them as a doctor, you had a chance to talk to your mom and you managed to exchange the coded messages. How did you manage them?
Yes, it was a moment when I was bubbling with adrenaline. I knew I had to let know where I was. I wanted to let her know I was not okay. I was in prison. I could not say it directly. I made up a story. I was asked by Ukrainian secret services upon my return from captivity how I managed to make that story up. I could not explain how. It was such a stressful moment. I did not know how I managed being so clear and precise to tell where I was. I think there was a mistake made by Russians. FSB was present then. Because it was my first call. They wanted to make sure I was not going to tell too much. I couldn't say anything as they pointed a gun on me. My parents could no see it. They could only hear me. I knew my life was depending on my word. I remembered what villages we passed by on the way to the prison. Russians forbid me to speak Ukrainian with my parents. We speak only Ukrainian. We never use Russian in our family. It could be spoken somewhere, but never at home. I asked my mum to speak Russian to me, and she realized something was going wrong. Then she asked me where I was. I had to say I was in some village, at the grandma, hiding. I was okay.
Що я знаходжусь в якомусь селі, у бабусі, переховуюсь, і зі мною все нормально. Тільки
I
скажіть
asked to
мені
send me
гроші
money on my bank
на
card.
карточку.
That's how Russians
Ну,
instructed me to
потім
answer on all the
з'ясувалося,
questions.
ФСБ всі карточки мої
I
оголили
found out
повністю.
later
Там
FSB cleared
була
all my
якби
bank cards.
накопичена сума,
I had savings there,
немаленька, це
around
був
$18 to
приблизно
$1,900.
$1800-1900. Це було в гривневому еквіваленті.
It was in Ukrainian
І
hryvnias.
я
I
піймав
named the
автобус,
nearest village
я
to
сказав,
Novakakhovka.
саме
I
те
spoke
село,
Russian, and
яке
I never
знаходиться
asked my parents for
неподалік
money.
Нової Каховки. І я спілкувався на російській мові.
My mum knew I
І
would
моя
never
мама
ask
знає
them willingly.
прекрасно, що
My
я
parents
ніколи
understood
не
everything.
просив у них коштів, грошей. І вони все зрозуміли. Я вам
I
ще
had more
скажу, що
chances
в
to
мене
talk to
потім
my
була
family
можливість ще
later. The
зв'язуватися.
more they used me,
Чим
the more
більше мене
chances I had to call
використовували,
them.
тим більше я мав можливість зв'язуватися. У мене потім з'явилася можливість дзвонити
I could
один
call
раз
them every
в
other
неділю.
week, then
Потім це
once a week,
скоротилося
then
до
2 to 3
одного
times a
разу в
week.
неділю. Потім це скоротилося до 2-3 разів на неділю. І я
I could
міг
call my
дзвонити.
family. I
І
hoped the
я
more I
надіявся,
called, the better
що
chances
тим,
for
що
my
я можу
commanders to
зателефонувати,
react.
в першу
I was
чергу
wrong. They registered
я
me as
хотів,
missing
щоб
in
моя військова
action
частина на
and
це
told my
зреагувала.
parents I was hiding
Але, на
somewhere.
жаль, моя військова частина зробила з мене безвісти пропавшого, і моїм батькам сказала, що він не в полоні, він переховується десь. І не переживайте,
I
не
was
боїться
okay
мене.
and they should
Це
not
було
worry about
нормально.
me.
Ви
It's
просто в це не можете
unbelievable.
повірити. Але ж я хлопець трошки
I am not a
розумний, і
fool, and I even
в
managed
мене
to turn on
вдавалося
the
знімати
camera.
навіть
I filmed
відеокамеру,
soldiers from Kalmykia, Buryatia,
знімати
and
калмиків,
Dagestan.
бурятів, дагестанців. Так.
Haven't they taken your phone?
They gave me their phone. I called using the Telegram app to my mum's Telegram account.
Дзвонив до мами на Telegram. Звісно, дзвонив по
Of course, I was allowed to use audio only in the presence of the Russian serviceman and the collaborator.
Я ловив момент тоді, коли ніхто не дивився в мою камеру.
I managed to sneak in the moment when nobody was looking at my phone camera while talking to my mum. She could see me, and I would switch from the front to the back camera.
Прям і знімав всіх. І навіть після цього все одно військова частина
Unfortunately, my
відмовилася
commanders
від
refused to
того,
change
щоб
my
переводити
status for
безвісти
POW.
статус військовополоненого.
I know that you were there's petition signed to award you the award title Hero of Ukraine, and let's hope it will be finalized and you will get it. Тоді, коли ви були
During your
в полоні, коли ви
captivity, the
намагалися
thoughts
повернутися
of your
додому,
liberation,
ви уявляли, що ви намагались, вам допомагали думки про
did it
визволення з
help you
полону
to
і
survive there?
проживати в це все там?
У мене не
I
було
didn't think
думок
about
з
when
приводу
and how I
того,
was going to
коли і
return
як
home.
я повернуся. У мене було тільки бажання повернутися, але
I
думок,
just
які
wanted to
могли
be
бути
back.
реалістичними, які мене якби стримували в чомусь або зберігали мене в чомусь, їм було не
My
місце,
mind was
тому
busy daily with
що
things,
весь
saving
час
people,
був
and it was
зайнятий
24/7.
двома речами: спасти людей, а це було 24/7. І що би
And what
мені
can I
сьогодні
eat
поїсти?
today? I mean, where to find food,
Де
whom I can
кого
ask to
попросити, до
eat,
якого військового
what
підійти і
soldier I can
попросити
ask to feed me.
їди. Е, Тому
I didn't
думок
think much about
з
how to
приводу того,
return.
що я би повернувся додому, як би це я повернувся додому, не було. Були тільки думки,
I was thinking
чи
about
мене
my beloved
чекає
girlfriend if she was waiting for
моя
me.
кохана людина, які дійсно були.
Unfortunately, it was only in my thoughts.
Didn't you?
Nope.
Maybe it's for better?
Possibly.
There's a practice in Western media before sending journalists to the war zone or some dangerous, they have to practice, they have to be prepared for potential or possible captivity. I know there's practice in British Army. Did you have any preparation as a serviceman with the Ukrainian armed forces? Or if you haven't, do you think, is there anything that could you prepare for Russian captivity for all those atrocities you went through yourself?
I don't think it's applicable for this war.
Така практика не буде діяти при даній війні, тому що правила війни Росія
Because Russia does not follow the rules of war.
підтримує правила війни. Тому ні одна
There's no
практика,
preparation
якщо
practice,
є британська,
British or American, would work for it.
вона не буде працювати. Можливо, певний відсоток, але він буде дуже малий.
Possibly some percentage might work out, but it's going to be tiny.
Війна відбувалася саме по правилах певних, тоді практика буде працювати. Тоді підготовка дійсно буде...
If they followed the rules of war, then yes, this kind of preparation would save lives, because the humans would be ready for it.
З військовими, які не були в полоні,
I talked to the servicemen who were not in captivity and told them everything I went through, how I was captured and what happened afterwards in the occupation, and then in Russian Federation in the prison. Everyone, no matter how long they were serving, told me they were not ready for it. It is beyond their comprehension. We can start establishing own practice of training after what we have went through there. It might become priceless.
Після того, що пережили там. Оце дійсно буде безцінно. Тому що у нас є...
There are countries they can prepare you relying on the rules of war, being close to it. Nobody has the experience if the war without rules.
Немає практики, якщо війна ведеться не за правилами.
What can humans expect there?
Це знають тільки ті,
Only those who went through it, being not prepared for it, can know what it's like.
до того, що він пережив.
You were in 3 prisons. One in Nova Kakhovka, second one was in Sevastopol in Crimea, and the third one, which is, as far as I understand, the worst one in Rostov. How different they were. And how did you manage to navigate? Because you are in a very limited space with different people, different age, different background, and you're not sure whom you can trust, what can you say, and how to survive.
Да, ви знаєте, це було
Yes, you know those 3 locations, and it's impossible to be ready for it.
було підготовитися і неможливо було знати, що тебе чекає попереду, тому що
It was impossible to know what was ahead of you.
так як я вже казав,
Nova Kakhovka was all about surviving through saving others.
режим до виживання через поріг спасіння інших.
There were negative moments when we were hiding from the Ukrainian artillery. It was close to us. We heard and saw it. The factories were exploding, all very visual. We saw it. It was terrifying. We knew how many Russian Federation servicemen were there, how many FSB officers were there.
Заводи, це було видно, це було чутно, це було дійсно страшно було, зразу скажу. Це було страшно, тому що ми розуміли, скільки знаходиться тут військових Російської Федерації. Ми розуміли, що неподалік знаходяться співробітники ФСБ. І ми розуміли, що інформація про те, що
Also, we knew the information about the location of this personnel could be at Ukraine's intelligence and SBU.
Служби безпеки, і це стає це є ризик то, що можуть не врахувати кількість людей, яких утримують цивільного населення українців, утримують тут, в цій локації, а можуть
It was a
взяти
risk
до уваги
Ukraine's armed forces might only concentrate how many enemies they can destroy
які знаходяться поряд з нами. І це був
rather than how many own civilians were under the threat as well.
якщо не кожний день, то через день, або було, можна так
It was
сказати,
almost daily, or every other day. There were massive shelling up to 40 attacks. We were hiding and counting. We were praying to survive.
І тільки молилися, щоб не прилетіло саме сюди. Якщо брати таку локацію,
If we talk about Sevastopol prison,
нас відвезли.
Russians used Navy College as a prison for us.
Нас було в одному бараці, ну це камерою дуже важко
There were
назвати.
posters on the walls, and there was a parade ground outside where young men and women were marching.
Був навчальний заклад військово-морських сил, тому що ми це бачили по написам на стінах, по тому, що за вікном був плац військовий, на якому
There were 17 of us, servicemen, taken to Sevastopol.
І нас, коли привезли туди, нас виїхало з Нової Каховки 17.
We arrived at the big room with about 400 people in it, with lots of CCTV around.
Людей було звише 400. Там, звісно,
We were told they were preparing us for the prisoners' exchange. They were supposed to feed us properly to be ready for return home.
щоб ми вас відгодували.
During the period of time between 19th of August till 10th of September, 4 prisoners' exchanges were cancelled.
Для того, щоб вас потім обміняти, повести на
I don't know the reasons. On the 19th of August, we were supposed to be exchanged. I could have been home and would have avoided what was waiting for me in Russia.
10 вересня було зірвано.
I would not be treated as an animal like I was made by the administration of colony in Rostov prison.
Я знаю тільки, що 19 числа в нас уже мали би поміняти. Знаєте, я вже був би вдома. Давно.
I could have been home and would have avoided what was waiting for me in Russia. I would not be treated as an animal like I was made by the administration of colony in Rostov prison.
Якою мене робили уже адміністрація колонії в Ростовській області.
What do you mean, like an animal?
I mean, we were made to behave like animals.
Нас
I mean,
примушували
walking on 4 limbs like pigs,
робити повадки, як роблять тварини. Нас примушували, ходити, як ходять, не знаю, як це даже м'яко сказати, як там свині пересуваються на 4.
and also we had to make sounds similar to the pigs' ones.
Звуки видавати ті, які видає свиня. Нас примушували.
We were forced to make dogs and cats sounds.
При цьому всьому, це все
Everything was done through physical violence. I could have avoided memorizing the anthem of Russian Federation. I could have avoided seeing what done to people who could not understand Russian language.
Я просто не бачив.
I would have never seen where they sticked the eclectic shocker and made people pee on themselves because of that.
Поки людина не сходить під себе.
Russians filmed that to entertain their families.
І на слідуючий день
Next day telling us how much laughter they had watching it.
з того, що він зняв учора на телефон.
Also, I could have avoided to pick up the soap bar with my bottoms. If I could not do it, then I should have done it with my teeth. I had 40 seconds to eat my breakfast. Lunch should have been eaten in 90 seconds. 4 minutes for shower, to undress, wash, get dressed and leave. If you were not able to do it, then they had us beaten everywhere. Private parts or neck. Some people fainted. I would have avoided all of this. I would not have needed to eat the food waste from the barrel because I was so hungry. Our portions were tiny, they wasted more than we ate. I had to eat the waste. I would never see this. You see? I have never thought that I would have regretted moving from Novokakhovka to Russia. I prayed to God to be returned back to Novokakhovka.
Captivity changed you a lot. Do you recognize yourself comparing to who you were before you went through Russian captivity?
Nope, there's nothing left in me. Not even 1%. First of all, I don't feel like a human. Life is pointless for me. I don't know when it's going to be back. I hope it will be back. I hope to feel again like people who never been there, the people I see in the street. I don't know when I am going to be free from everything that happened to me. I don't know when the war is going to be, as it makes things worse for me daily. Every attack and every air raid signals. I see only negatives and my life gets worse. I don't feel my country supports me. I hope and was waiting. I was sure that my country would look after me if I stay in the army or not.
What are the main challenges do you have now after returning from captivity?
First of all, the medical help is not sufficient for people like me. We need to be returned to life and feeling alive again as life's going on. Doctors are helpless with ex-POWs who returned from Russian captivity. Unfortunately, they are learning on us how to help. Unfortunately.
Apart of medicine, what's in your life?
My life is about 3 lawyers, 2 court cases, because my commanders during my captivity tried to fire me and told my parents I was not going return home and asked not to contact them again.
Він не повернеться, можете його не чекати і більше в нашу військову частину не приходити.
I am back and now fighting to survive.
І тепер борюся не за життя, а за виживання. В полоні
I was
боротися
fighting for life during captivity.
за виживання.
Here I am fighting to survive. No success so far. The hope is still there.
Aren't you happy you can sleep as long as you like? You have a pillow to sleep on. You can talk to your family, and your mom doesn't cry for your return anymore. І мама більше не плаче за вами. Оця здатність. Я чого питаю? Тому що I'm asking because we are humans after going through some traumatic and tragic events. Sometimes we lose an ability to experience joy of simple things. Здатність, фізичну, емоційну здатність радіти простим речам. І от мені цікаво, вона теж у вас втрачена? Чи все-таки Have you lost it, or you have managed to find the strength to be happy about something trivial? Ну, елементарному.
Це відбувається тимчасово.
It happens temporarily.
Ніч я живу.
I return to captivity during the night time and live through all those tortures and horrors I went through. Everything I have seen comes back to me and what they have done to those people.
Наступає день.
During the day, I am trying to enjoy something.
Радуватися чомусь. Якщо чесно, не розумію.
I don't understand what it is exactly. I force myself to feel joy. I am trying to avoid to get to the no-return point. It is when I would not be able to be around civilians or even my family.
То, що навіть цивільне населення я не зможу сприймати своїх рідних, близьких. Тому, знаєте,
It feels like I am on the leash. I don't see who is holding it.
Але я не бачу, хто тримає цей повідок. Можливо, то, що пережити, тримає цей повідок. Можливо, та несправедливість.
Maybe it's everything I went through holding it, or maybe it's injustice holds it for me and makes me live in negative emotions partly, and in positive a bit as well.
Частково в позитиві. І ви знаєте, ця боротьба не дає нічого.
This fight doesn't do any good to me. It destroys my mental health. I try to control myself when I talk to my family.
Знаєте, я коли спілкуюся зі своїми рідними і близькими, я стараюся себе дуже сильно контролювати. Дуже сильно контролювати. Тому що в мене є страх зробити їм погано, сказати щось не те.
I am afraid to cause them any pain, to hurt their feelings if I say something wrong.
Тому тоді, коли
I am afraid to have my meltdown, and it might badly affect them. I don't want this.
Про мене піклуються, мною цікавляться. Для мене це не то відчуття зовсім. Для мене це не є все тим, що мені дають. Тому що в багатьох моментах мене не розуміють. Мене не розуміють, чому в мене
Most of the time, they don't understand me. They don't understand when sometimes I ask them to leave me and don't talk to me and close the door. Don't come into my room. People don't understand it.
Не заходьте до мене. І люди цього не розуміють. А в цей момент на мене
There are emotional waves of everything I went through.
пережив.
It is provoked how I was met in my country.
Хвилі. Є що і як мене зустріли в своїй
I
країні.
don't mean those people whom I saved or supported the petition to award me the honorable title of the Hero of Ukraine.
За петицію про присвоєння Героя України, а це немало, це 27 тисяч.
It's 20,000 people, 25 needed.
Це ті люди, які мають владу, але їм плювати на таких, як я. Тому я
I mean our authorities, and they don't care about people like.
в даний момент по факту я народний герой. Державним героєм
I say I am already a people's hero.
тією стороною, якою потрібно повертатися до військового.
I hope the state will turn its face to me eventually.
От і все. А скажіть, як боротися
How to live after
з
surviving sexual violence?
сексуальне насилля?
I don't know. I've never experienced it.
Men were sexually violated as well. It's a different kind of violence.
It's never about sex. It's about exercising power and humiliation.
Yeah, humiliation, not power.
Розумієте, ви ж знаєте, що
No,
є
there are
люди,
people who
які
were
потрапляють
captured
до
with
300-ми
injuries
або стають 300-ми пораненими, а
and
повертаються
returned
вдома
home
вже
dead.
300-ми.
Так,
Yes, I know some of them.
знаю таких.
А ви
You are
повернулися.
back home alive.
Розумієте, ви
You
і тут
won
перемогли.
here.
Знаєте, от
Але бажання повернутися хоча б...
I wanted to return home at least dead.
Спочатку були
At
бажання
first, I wanted to injured
повернутися 300-м, тому що бачив, що хлопців, які
because those were the
досить
priority for the
успішні,
exchange list.
вони перші подавалися в списки на обмін зі сторони Росії. Потім уже, коли
After the
доходило
sexual
до того,
violence,
що
I hoped for my body
відбувалося
to be
сексуальне
returned to
насилля,
my parents.
думав тільки про те, щоб хоча б моє тіло побачили мої батьки і рідні. Мені
It
цього
would be
досить.
enough for me.
ну,
Do you
ви перемогли,
realize that
ви
you
розумієте?
overachieved the plan?
Так.
Yeah, I do.
І не
I don't
розумію
understand
одного,
where I
що в мене
take the
ще
strength for
цього
the fight.
Можливо,
Possibly
це
it's
через
coming
себе
from
це
hating
ненависть
somebody.
до когось.
А може оця ненависть, яка є
What
зараз
if
в
this
нас?
hate inside of you is
Може,
the
це
saving
ця
rope?
рятівна ця соломка?
Ця
This
ненависть
hate pushes me to
боротися,
seek justice.
момент справедливості, бажання до встановлення справедливості.
It's a
Зовсім
different
інша
type
ненависть.
of hate.
Це ненависть та,
It is
яка,
the hate when
можливо,
guys go to the government office with bombs and
хлопці
detonate them.
заходили в різні адмінбудівлі з гранатами підривали. Ну, це от така приблизно ненависть.
That's what I mean, to find justice by all means. I am afraid of it. I am worried about my mum. She won't survive. I can see it.
Я знаю, якою вона була до того, як я потрапив в полон.
She looked different before my captivity, and when I saw her when I returned,
Дві різні людини.
two different people. She lost her health.
Здоров'я маю на увазі.
Але ви є одне у одного.
But you have each
Так,
other.
це
Probably you both lost dozens of years of life. You returned a different person. Your mom can take a phone and call you. You can always text her or even get annoyed with each other. You can do it. Many don't have this option.
Я ж кажу,
As I said, not many had the same captivity as I did.
Я чомусь думаю, що
I think my salvation will depend on the person who is going to be with me.
залежить від людини, яка буде поряд зі мною. Я чомусь думаю, що
If I sacrificed myself for others, it would be nice if there was somebody who could save me in this situation.
то хотілося б, щоб знайшлася та людина, яка врятує мене. в даній ситуації.
Nothing else.
Більше нічого.
Save me and be by
Врятуй
my
мене,
side.
будь поряд зі мною.
Thank you for watching. Today was one of the most difficult conversations, interviews I had. I'm very interested to hear what you think. Please share your thoughts and in the comments below. As you can see, Yuri Armash, our guest today, he's in quite challenging and difficult situation right now. And if you would like to support him or help him, I will leave his PayPal details under the description of this video, and feel free to support this brave man. All your likes, shares, subscriptions really gives me inspiration, energy, and keep me going. If you haven't done it, please do. What are you waiting for? And thank you for being part of this extremely kind, supportive, intellectual community. You know how I appreciate your comments, your ideas, and I like how we exchange in it during our lives. I just remind you that we have 2 lives during the week. It's on Monday, 7:30 p.m. and on Thursday, 7:30 p.m. UK time. And let's talk about it. Let's discuss, agree or disagree as usual. Take care. I'm Jenny Klochko. Thank you for watching.